Hi, my name is Esther. I am the lead creative and designer here at Sereth Design, and this is Behind the Screens. Behind the Screens is a new series where we're going to be showing you behind the scenes of our process designing for one of our previous clients from start to finish. So whether they went through branding, messaging, strategy, packaging, website design, the whole shebang, we're going to be going through it. The point of Behind the Screens is to show you a look back. You know, when you're young and you are in math class, I don't know if they do this anymore, but they used to, you'd have to show your work. So when you're going through a problem, you show your work and exactly how you get from point A to point B. And that's what we're going to be doing here. And I really want this to be eye-opening so that you can see the amount of love and dedication and passion and thoughtfulness that goes into every single client project that we work on and what really sets the foundation for a good brand strategy. Today we are going to be talking about our previous client, Kutoa Project. Kutoa Project is a counseling and education center based in Nairobi, Kenya. They provide counseling services for women and children, and they came to us 5 years after their organization had already begun. So over the 5 years before they approached Sereth Design for rebranding, they had already set up a previous branding, they had gotten their services down, they were doing a lot of in-person trainings, and their organization more or less was running very smoothly. So when they came to us for rebranding, the purpose was not to start a new organization, it was to refine what they already had, because what they had was something that was put up just so that they could get running. They could get started and start to get funding. And now it was time to rethink through what's our strategy, what is our plan for the future, and how do we want to communicate that through design, through our branding, through our messaging, and how we portray ourselves to the world, to donors, and to those who are potentially receiving counseling services. So first, let's talk about the things that we did for Kutoa Project. We started with brand strategy. We got into copywriting and messaging. We designed the branding, the brand identity, the logos, the color palettes, the fonts. We did print design, so for brochures and for signage. We also designed their website, which was the largest portion of it all. There were two main objectives in this project. So the first was to retell the story of Kutoa Project in a bold, vibrant, and joyous way to reflect the joy behind the people working at Kutoa Project and the joy that comes after you have received counseling services and you see this restoration. The second objective was to bring two audiences together, the donor and the client, and merge them into one in the website and in the messaging. When Kutoa Project first came to us, they had a donor website, which was front-facing for people to submit donations, to volunteer, to support their work, and then they had the client website, which was to book their counseling services. And the challenge was, how do we merge these two together and make it feel like one cohesive unit while still giving space for the donors and giving space for the clients where they know where they're supposed to be looking on the website. So first, for Kutoa Project, we started with the strategy. So really thinking about, what is Kutoa Project? What type of place do we want it to feel? What is it a place of? And some of the words that came to mind were restoration, humility, hope, safety, servanthood, faith, empowerment, intentionality, consistency, support, integrity, and care, and empathy. So many different strong, captivating words that encapsulate who Kutoa Project is and what they want to be for their clients. We sat with these emotions, we sat with all of these personalities and thought through, okay, what are the ones that we think actually are the strongest? What really overarching is our values? So from that, hope, faith, restoration and healing, and intentionality were the four that we settled on. Then we focused on, what are the three audiences? So we already talked about the donor and the client, but we found that there's actually this third audience, the caregiver. So this is somebody who Kutoa Project provides training for. So they work with schools, and so the school's teachers or the caregivers are people who also need training for emotional intelligence and for safety for the children. So then the question is begged, how do we want and need them to feel? And if you're going back to that list of words that we had come up with at the very beginning of how Kutoa Project lives and breathes in the world, we went through and highlighted which ones do the clients need to feel, which ones do the donors need to feel, and then which ones do the caregivers need to feel. And then we cross-checked which emotions are consistent throughout all three of those audiences. Then we talk through what we call the dilemmas. So this is three-pronged. First is, what is their current problem? What are the challenges that they're facing that's stopping them from, whether it's a donor, maybe it's stopping them from donating or supporting. If it's a client, stopping them from signing up for services. And if it's the caregiver, stopping them from signing up for training. Then what is their inherent desire? So what do they actually want? They want to feel safe. Maybe a client wants to feel safe and know that this is a space that they're going to be seen and heard. A donor wants to make sure that they know this is a trustworthy organization that's doing what they say they're doing. And the caregiver wants to know that the training is actually quality and it's going to help them. Otherwise, it's just going to waste their time. Then we talk through the messaging solution. So what are the words that we need to speak to be able to draw them in, and how do we make sure they feel safe and seen? When we get into copy and messaging, we like to start with a manifesto. So this is a way that we can encapsulate everything that we've talked about in the strategy through words, and serves as a boilerplate language for the website and for marketing materials. Now this messaging changes a little bit as we go, but it is always a starting place. So I'm going to read through the manifesto that we had written for Kutoa Project. We are Kutoa Project, a team of licensed professional counselors who believe people are valuable and their experiences do not define them. We believe that no matter who you are or what your story is, you are valued, loved, and deserving of healing. We support those who have been affected by trauma to experience healing through hopeful, purposeful, and faith-filled counseling services. Our approach has been and continues to be that restoration and healing comes from a place of safety. It should not be taken lightly, but rather supported, nurtured, and tailored to each person. We seek to acknowledge the pain and trauma and create a community of caregivers and counselors who will walk alongside each individual and remind them they are seen and heard and their life has purpose. Above all, we believe in our Savior, Jesus Christ. At the core of it all, our faith that He cares for us keeps us strong. This faith assures us that the journey we're on will bring us to a place of healing. We love what we do and love that we get to share it with you, our extended family. So this manifesto was a way that we could encapsulate so many different aspects. If we shared this with a donor, they would understand this is exactly what they do. This is their approach. This is how they see the world, how they see trauma, how they are approaching it with their clients and their caregivers. And this manifesto is never truly meant to be front-facing. We're never going to copy and paste it word for word and send it out. It is an internal document so that people can look back on it, team members can look back on it and say, okay, this is true to who we are, and this is how we want to operate in the world and how we want to use our messaging moving forward. And then we get into creative direction, which is always the most exciting for me and my team because it is visual, and it's also super exciting for clients because they start to see things pieced together that are able to be taken and actually used. So we're going through colors and fonts and logos, the most exciting. So before going into the creative direction phase, we always start with a branding questionnaire for our clients. So asking them specific questions about how they are envisioning the brand moving forward. So if they have a brand already, what aspects do they want to keep of it? Maybe they want to keep the colors and they can scrap everything else. Maybe they want to keep aspects of the iconography and just rework them to feel like they need them a little bit tightened up. For Kutoa Project, they just wanted to stick with the colors a little bit. Not fully, but they also weren't married to them. They were very open to the idea of let's dig in and see how our strategy can inform our design. So with that, we came up with a mood board of ideas. So we scoured the internet and find different thoughts and inspirations that feel like they might possibly work. So some of the inspirations that we had pulled were very icon forward, had a lot of symbolism in there. There's a lot within Kutoa Project that is deep meaning, and so we wanted to incorporate symbolism to bring that in. We also started our mood board with lots of neutrals and green colors that felt ease and calm and reminded us of a little bit of the Kenyan landscape, and just that neutral feels like safety. That changes. Spoiler alert. First, we get into icon and illustration inspiration. So a brand mark. We wanted to go with an abstract symbol that represents emotions and experiences and is very concept driven. And so some of the thoughts we incorporated or wanted to incorporate are the ideas of growth, unity, and safety. And some of the questions we asked them are there any types of Kenyan symbols or patterns that have meaning, that hold meaning, that we can use and kind of tweak them to fit the style that we want to? Or is there anything that resonates, an icon or symbol that resonates with Kutoa Project's journey? And we got this incredible response that was this idea of cloth. So I actually have some cloth here. This is the cloth that I have, but there are so many different patterns of cloth that are kente cloth, mud cloths. There's lots of patterns throughout Eastern Africa. And our client told us that there's no specific meaning to each of these patterns. So you see, like, if I were to pull one of these chevrons or a whole section here and use it, there's not a specific meaning to it. They are patterns themselves. But you might see patterns on kente cloth that are triangles, or they're arrows pointing into each other, or they're blocks. We scoured the internet because I only have one on hand, but we scoured the internet for lots of different patterns. Also asked our clients for photos of patterns that they had in their home, and sketched down all of these types of patterns into little symbols. They're very basic shapes. Made a whole list of all of those shapes, and then sat and thought, what does this remind me of? So if it was two chevrons pointing forward, I wrote down forward movement. So I have thought through so many different ways, and some of these changed, and some of them overlapped, some of them didn't really work. So when something didn't work, I would just cross it out, and we stuck with the ones that did. Now then it came to actually piecing the icon together and playing with, all right, what are the ones we actually want to keep? So if we go back to the strategy, we thought through hope, faith, intentionality, and safety, restoration, and healing. And so I thought through which of these patterns actually feel like they work that well. Going through, we came up with these final 4 that I'm going to show on the screen. These final 4 that represented safety, faith, growth, and hope. I pieced all of these together, started drawing, and came up with also a KP icon that goes together, and then all of these encapsulated into one icon. We also presented some typography too. So the type inspiration, we wanted something that conveyed strength, confidence, and simultaneously felt warm and inviting. So something that had extreme contrast in the strokes. It blended minimalism with elegance and also felt very strong while having that soft balance. And that is what we presented. So now you'll see some of the initial design concepts that we presented to the client. You'll see that icon that was created, the pattern, some of the color inspiration, the neutrals, the green, and then a little bit of a warm yellow, an initial design exploration for the website, and typography treatment. Now we went through refining rounds. So the biggest thing that was a point of feedback is it doesn't feel joyful. We wanted joy, and that was a huge part of it. We wanted to feel vibrant and representative of Kenyan culture and representative of the people who are coming through and how we want them to feel when we leave. So the neutrals felt a little bit muted, which is what they were. They were muted, but they felt too muted. And so we went through a refining round of, all right, let's bring in some pops of color. Let's bring in blues and pinks, and looking back to the colors of fabrics. What colors of fabrics are there? In addition, the icon that was initially presented was too busy. There was so much going on. It felt like there was a little bit too much symbolism, or maybe the symbolism just didn't work well together. The KP in it was kind of cool, but we don't necessarily need that in the icon. And so we went through and cleaned things up and tightened up what the icon could be. Now we went through a lot of different iterations of the icon. So we went through one where it was a lot less busy and it felt like children in rotating around. So we had 4 children with different colors. That was an option. We also went with another option that was still similar to the KP, but felt a little bit tribal, a little bit too tribal. And then we found this icon that is now the official icon for Couture Project. And it has arrows pointing into one individual circle that encapsulates that safety aspect of it. And it still has all the symbols that we had originally came up with. They were just configured in a different way. The KP monogram was used as a secondary icon, so we still use that, but it's not in the main icon itself. And this is where the client started to feel like, yes, this feels like us. This feels like it resonates. It was so beautiful to see all of the pieces come together and see how the symbolism really worked even through the revisions. Now looking back on the first iterations of the brand, we needed to go through the process of refining to feel like this is it. This is something that's going to stick with them for years to come. So the next phase of this process was to help them with their photography direction. Now, Couture Project was in Nairobi, Kenya, and I am in Chicago, Illinois. So there is quite a gap, and it was impossible for me to go and help them with their photography shoot. But what I did is help them prepare for their shoot by creating a list of a shot list of what they should have for people, for detail shots, for space shots, and this is informed by, as I'm creating the website, what type of shots I need for the website. And of course, I will encourage my clients to get more than what they need for the website so they can use that on their social media and in their brochures and in any other promotional materials. A key point for the photography was to make it feel warm and inviting, make it feel authentic and very candid. So they had set up a whole day with 2 incredible photographers, captured 1 day of training, of counseling, of individual actor shots, of group shots, and the team members, and the photos are incredibly stunning. And seeing them translated onto the website is just chef's kiss, so good. So while they were doing the photography shoot is when we were designing the website itself. And so through the website, through going through the story of bringing the donor relation and the client relation and the caregiver together, we had to come up with this way to really make sure all of the information is shared on the website but has its individual space. So when you land on the homepage, you first see half of the screen is for donors and half of the screen is for clients. As you go through the homepage, you'll see information about the mission and the impact and a quick links of how to book and what their services look like. That was a huge important piece of the website, is to make sure things are front and center and the call to actions are extremely clear. Then if they want to learn more, they can click out into separate pages that are about their team, about the mission and the vision, who they are. That is donor facing. It's also client facing, because if a client is coming in and they want to know, they want to vet and make sure that this is a space they want to attend, then they're going to go through the whole mission and vision and who the people are. But going through the whole website, a key thing was to make it feel like a calming experience for people as well, making it feel, 1, informative, but 2, like it's an easy and safe space to be in, and not just words thrown on a paper, not just here's what we do, but here's what we do in a thoughtful way. Here's the symbolism, here's the messaging, here is stunning photography, and piecing all these elements together to create a compelling through line. And the through line is couture. Now, 2 years after going through the rebranding, redesign with Sereth Design, Couture Project is seeing so much growth still. They are continually expanding their services and reconfiguring things, but growing nonetheless. And it is extremely cool to see how they've taken the branding and continued to work with it and create print materials and create promotional materials, all aligned to the strategy, the messaging, the design that we had reset the foundation for with them 2 years prior. And I had the pleasure of going to visit Shay and Jason while they were in the United States just 2 weeks ago, and they're so excited about the new things that are happening with Kotoa Project. It's so cool to see how your client can turn into a friend, and you can watch their progress and cheer them on. And I'm super excited to see where this takes them in the next 5 years. And I'm always here to support them as Kotoa continues to evolve and new things and new ventures and new aspects of the organization unfold. So I hope you enjoyed seeing the process of behind the scenes. If you have any questions, you can drop them below or send me an email at hello@serethdesign.com, or check out the case study online at serethdesign.com, and we'll link that in the notes below. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Behind the Screens, and we'll see you next time.